Has anyone ever accused you of being a playaholic? How about a workaholic? Maybe you've forgotten what it feels like to even play. Welcome. I'm Clark Korb, a holistic health practitioner offering some pragmatic insights to help you live a happier, more empowered life and embody your optimum potential. Today, I'll be exploring the relationship between work and play. These two concepts are commonly held in opposition to one another, yet in reality, they have much in common. Today, I'll discuss how you may be able to improve both the quality produced and the satisfaction you receive from your work by incorporating more play. Now, to start with typical characteristics of play, I think we all have some idea what that is. I'm going to pull those together and say that it's basically everything related to feeling light. It's something fun. It's something that often has a sense of curiosity about it. Feels like recreation. It's something you look forward to doing. It provides you some kind of mental or emotional reward for participating in it. And even when we use the term playing around with someone, it implies that we're teasing or joking or being light. So play feels light. And by contrast, we often think of work as feeling heavy, something typically associated with labor, whether it's intellectual or mental labor, emotional labor, or physical labor. It might feel boring or not particularly stimulating, something that's enjoyable for us. Or it might be something that's done out of obligation or a transactional nature, such as showing up to work so you can get a paycheck and cover your bills. It's often something we dread, we don't look forward to doing it, and it might feel difficult or even stressful to endure, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional stress. Now, the reality of play, if you were to ask a musician how much time, energy, and effort, and study and work went into playing or learning an instrument, or memorizing a song, or studying music theory, they might tell you that a heck of a lot of work went into that. Same thing with an athlete. How much training, how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into preparing for a game that you play. The answer to both is it's a lot of work. Playing can take a tremendous amount of work to achieve a certain level of competency to be able to play whatever you want to play in, even if it's for pure recreation. So, if we look at a larger scope of this, both play and work activities really share a lot in common. They both require focus, or at least some presence in what you're either allowing in the experience or working toward. Both require a discipline to study and or execute. If you're playing an instrument or playing a sport, learning that those skills require development of muscle memory or reinforced neural pathways through a lot of repetition and through practice. And in either case, whether you're doing something out of work or play, it only typically feels joyful if it's done on your own terms. And I think this is a key distinction. A child doesn't typically want to be forced to play an instrument. It doesn't feel like play if they're forced to practice, for example. And in your professional life, work feels lighter not only if it's done on your own terms, but if, in particular, if it's related to your passion or a larger life purpose, or if it's accompanied with some sort of emotional reward or connection that you have from it. So, what I'm going to offer is how to be more conscious in integrating play into your work. And with this, it's a bit of an alternative approach to classic thoughts about work. There's the old saying that when you do what you love, you never work a day again in your life. So the reality of that is, of course, you're putting time, energy, focus, commitment into your work, even if you love it, but it doesn't feel like drudgery. And it's super easy to get stuck on negative characteristics of work that feel less than joyful or less than play like. When people use the term workaholic, my experience from that has been a projection of someone who really doesn't understand the joy, the passion, the satisfaction, and the connection by those who perhaps work more than they do because they can't relate to it. They don't know what it would possibly feel like to show up to work and feel better at the end of your day than when you did starting it. I know it sounds crazy. I personally am fortunate to have found that in my own career. That's why I want to share these aspects with all of you. And the way you get there, I think it's important to step back and evaluate what things in life really bring you joy. And no one else can really determine this for you. But to look back, whether it was something that was a passion that you were pursuing when studying, or if it's when you are recreating, what types of recreation, what forms of recreation or play do you engage in, and why are you drawn to that? What feels good about playing when you do so? What is the essence of your hobbies that bring you joy? Because there are a gazillion different types of hobbies, and we're sort of drawn to what we're drawn to. And if you haven't asked yourself what about it engages you in that way, I think this is a super helpful exercise because you can apply this to your work. So for you, perhaps it's learning something new. You like intellectual engagement or problem solving. Maybe you like going on adventures or being connected to nature. Maybe you're a people person. You want to work with people, or maybe you'd rather be in isolation from people and work in a cocoon of sorts. Maybe something in your hobbies or your recreation brings out a bit of competition. You want to bring out the best in your own performance. And if there's a little bit of playful competition with your friends or colleagues, then that's fun. Maybe you are drawn to creating art, however that is defined for you. It doesn't have to be art in classical forms, but something that is new that you generate, that you develop, that you create on your own. Maybe that's particularly satisfying for you. Maybe what you like doing in recreation or for fun is something where you contribute to other people, something that you do at a church or a social community organization. Maybe there's something that you do in your recreation that connects you to your life purpose. And my recommendation is to find out what are those things that light you up and incorporate as many of them as possible into your work. Now, they may not be the same exact activities, but if you work with it a bit and you clearly identify the essence of what brings you that joy, it might be a lot easier than you think to imbue that into your work. One of my master teachers that developed a bodywork modality called sensory repatterning employed passive joint movement to help the body free up and to retrain the nervous system a bit to move out of limiting patterns. And one of his mantras was always working with what feels freer and lighter. You're sort of asking the body, what feels freer, what feels lighter? And I believe you can apply that exact same concept here to your work. How can your work feel freer and lighter if it doesn't already feel pretty darn free and light? So, how do you bring more freedom and lightness to your work? It starts with the intention of doing just that. So, to begin, acknowledging what you already appreciate about your work, what freedoms do you enjoy from your work? Having the work that you do likely brings you some compensation that helps you live a certain lifestyle or stability that you desire. There's a work environment or people that you work with, perhaps that you appreciate. And aside from appreciating where you're already at, I believe it's super important to develop or further foster your own curiosity in general about your work, some aspect of it. Decide to learn something new that's related to your work, maybe a new skill, a new tool, or something new about an aspect of your industry or your business. Maybe improve the connections that you have with people, make new friends outside of your current network or the immediate circle of coworkers and customers and clients that you work with. Or, in addition to this, make an effort to connect more deeply with the current network you have. Maybe find excuses or opportunities to go to lunch with someone to get to know them a little bit better so that you're better connected to the people you work with. Another aspect that feeds curiosity is to learn something new about your company or the industry or maybe the history of how you got there. All of these things, when you're feeding curiosity, you're feeding that kind of learning, that desire. Every time that you learned a new hobby, at some point it was new to you. So the more you can stoke the fire of curiosity, I believe that helps keep things feeling fresh in your work. It's also important to feel like you're working on your own terms, as we mentioned. So what about your environment, for example, can you introduce to make it more pleasing, more comfortable, or better suited to your individuality? Perhaps you might want to change schedule or modify what you're doing in terms of on-site or remote work these days. I know there's a call back post-pandemic to have many workers return to the office, but there are still a lot of careers and a lot of jobs that allow people to have that flexibility. It's easier now than it ever has been in the past to have either the gig economy or to conform work to fit your own schedule and your own environment more than it has in the past. And ultimately, if you're evaluating all these things, it may highlight for you a personal need to consider changing a course of your job or your career, whether the environment is too toxic or there's a limited path of growth and self-development or compensation, or maybe just as you come to realize it's truly misaligned with your personal values and the balance that you want to create in your life. So to conclude from all of this, if you step back a moment and identify the essence of what brings you joy, in other words, what are the things that you value most when you're really at play? And if you haven't even remembered what it's like to play for a while, this is probably the very first and most important thing to do is to reconnect to what it's like to play, what it's like to be a kid again if you haven't already. Tap into those essential values or qualities that bring you joy. And if you can abstract from that, what those essential values are, whether it's learning something new, doing something where you're connecting with people, maybe finding a creative outlet or expressing your own creativity, contributing to other people or being in alignment with a larger purpose. And once you have a clearer sense of those values, those qualities that bring you joy, and you bring that essence to your work, you're far more likely to improve the quality of your work. For example, if you know that having a creative outlet is important for you and you have an intention to almost have an excuse to have a creative outlet to your work, you're very likely to tap into those creative forces more easily when you're solving a work problem, for example. You're also more likely to feel more productive with your work since there's an easier, lighter quality that you bring to work. You might feel improved connection among those people with whom you work and ultimately experience more joy, meaning, and fulfillment from your work. And once you've reconnected to these values of what brings you joy in your life, and you intentionally bring the essence of these qualities to your work, it really tends to expand the experience of, on a day-to-day basis, that your work almost begins feeling like play. The same discipline that you would bring to learning an art of what brings you joy in play, you can bring to your work. And in my experience, it's a night and day game changer in terms of not only work satisfaction, but quality of life satisfaction. I'd love to know, do you currently experience any sense of play while you're at work right now? Or has it been so long since you've actually played what you would call playing that you've forgotten what it feels like? What aspects of your work feel like drudgery, and what would you like to change if you could right now? And further, what is one action you can take today that will bring a greater sense of lightness or play into your work? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. If you know of anyone who may benefit from what I've shared here, please forward this video to them. And if you found some value in what I've discussed today, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It's free, it only takes a moment, and it really helps support the growth of the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in.